But the community has come across. I mean, in the UK, across the board. I mean, Selfridges was attacked. So I don't completely agree that it is in the areas which are economically less successful than the other places. But the community has come together all across the board to support the police now. So I mean, it's clearly something that nobody has.
The austerity cuts, Dalip, let's assume, Dalip, the austerity cuts are the trigger. The fact is there are many idle young people, but isn't it true that racial tensions have fomented much of the anger that is being released and manifests itself today on the streets?
Well, there
didn't this happen in 1985?
I will not go. I won't say that there isn't unrest. Of course, there is in certain places and certain areas. But to bring it down to a racial sort of a racial situation is I think going a bit too far at this stage. Because there's no evidence that is the reason why it happened.
Okay, so Parvez is rebutting. Parvez, yes.
Dalip sir, I would like to say that there is a bit of racial element in a way that, I mean, it was absolutely right, Arnab, what you said in your introduction, that during the last 5 years, 10 years, we have seen lots of, arrests being made in the so-called black and ghetto areas, and people are stopped and searched and arrested. The police say that lots of criminals come from such and such areas, so this is the reason we go to some of those areas. It's a kind of a catch-22 situation. But the fact is that it has been happening, and there are lots of black people, I have met them in London, who feel discriminated against. There are local black groups protesting against some of these, police activities. Now, that's one thing. Second thing is, there's also a kind of a resentment among these people. Again, I'm talking about the black people and also marginally deprived people. Lots of, some of them are from the South Asian communities as well.
Yes.
Mostly Bangladeshis, mostly people of Pakistani origin. They are having problems in some of the areas. The problems are lack of proper education. Lots of them are unemployed. And there's a long list. And also they are discriminated against. So that's the backdrop. When powerless people get an opportunity to become powerful by some of these things, they become ruthless. Unfortunately, this is what we are seeing, the thugs and the professional gangsters exploiting the anger of these ordinary people.
Absolutely. Here now, a question to you, Suhel. We are not, and let me clarify here, Mr. Tahil. Certainly, race is not the only reason. But race perhaps has been integrated as one of the reasons. It's a number of factors which eventually go into the making of a situation such as this. Suhel, what will be the response after
it has escalated too.
Yes.
The escalation is what's
worrying.
Is of concern.
Absolutely.
It's worrying. But if talking about arrests, you have to see some programs in the UK, and there are a lot of white people who are arrested as well. So
absolutely,
I'm not sure that I'm not sure that statistic sort of holds in the situation.
But
although I have to say that the general situation in most big cities where it's become so difficult to survive.
In 1999, I think there was an inquiry into the mishandling of a particular murder of a black teenager. The official inquiry found that the British police is institutionally racist. That was what was found. And I think people also remember what happened when a Brazilian electrician in 2005 was mistaken for a suicide bomber and shot brutally dead. That also happened at the hands of the British police. So there's a certain background. These incidents have happened in the past. Yes, Siddharth.
Arnab, I was a student in England in the late 70s, early 80s, and you had the Scarman inquiry into rioting which happened then, which said largely the same thing about the police. Now, there was an op-ed article that I read today by an American police officer who spent 6 months at a college, I think Oldham College, where British senior police officers are trained. And what he wrote was how racial prejudice and stereotypes are rampant among senior British police officers.
Precisely.
Who often use racial slurs to describe Afro-Caribbean people.
Precisely.
Now, if you can imagine in a social setting, that's the attitude, when they're on the street doing hard policing, this is bound to translate into a fairly aggressive kind of style of policing.
Exactly.
But I think we need to distinguish between the trigger. I do feel we need to distinguish between the trigger and the opportunistic
we distinguish.
Rioting which we have seen, which really has no justification. I mean, these kids who are going and looting, sports goods and Bang & Olufsen.
Sure,
there is no socio-economic argument that I'm going to accept to justify or to, that can serve as a fig leaf for this sort of thing.
They're petty thieves, Siddharth. But I haven't heard even once.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Anyone in Britain, any official, any government minister, the Prime Minister accepting that one of the triggers may be race. There is complete denial over that. Yes, Suhel.
See, I think there are two or three issues. I'm not in complete agreement with this whole analysis of that it's not racial and it's still multicultural. I mean, 5 years ago, a deputy cop, the deputy chief of the Met, who was an Indian, resigned because he felt that there was too much of racism in policing and in the police force there. The reality, Arnab, is, however, quite different in today's context. What has happened is, you've had an incident where clearly one community felt it was being targeted by the establishment represented by the police. So they thought that retaliation was the best. There are also strong economic reasons for such retaliation in the times that we exist in today, especially as far as England is concerned. And this is spun out of control. But the danger which you've identified is something that needs to be addressed. To not talk about race is to be in denial or deceit. So I think race has played a role. Whether it is underlying or not is for time to tell. But I think the government must bring back what they did post the July bombings in London, where they brought back community intervention, where they brought back community leaders, they started talking to people, and they created neighborhood watch areas and neighborhood community schemes in order to integrate people. You can't alienate people and build societies. You must build them through integration.
Absolutely. I think that's so well said. I think to tackle a problem, I think we all agree, you first need to accept that a problem exists. And I think Britain needs to get out of the mindset that we are British and there can be no racism on our island. I think that's the mindset we need to change. For a robust discussion on the News Hour, gentlemen, thank you very much.